and welcome to Talking Live. I'm Dr. Robi Ludwig, right here in Star Shop Studio, and we are thrilled to have my friend and our guest, Lis Wiehl, she's so many things. So she is a former prosecuting attorney. She's a legal commentator who's been on national TV for over 15 years. She has over 18 best-selling books, and this is a book we were lucky enough to have you when you came out with a hardcover.
That's right.
Hunting Charles Manson. Now the soft cover is out. It is the 50-year anniversary of the murders, and we are going to get into details that we didn't have a chance to get into really the first time around. Welcome and congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Robi. It's great to be here.
I love the way you write,
Thank
and
you.
I love being around bright, purposeful women, and that is exactly what you are. And you've written many articles about Charles Manson, and it's very easy to get swept up and believe, well, now he's dead, we're okay.
Well, that would be the wrong belief to have.
Yes.
That would be so wrong.
Yeah.
Because the Manson playbook, unfortunately, is not retired. I mean, we saw that even with the conviction this summer of Keith Rainier, with that horrible sex cult up here in upstate New York. Keith Rainier, was, amassed a sex cult. And he literally branded people. And when I say literally, I mean literally.
Yeah.
Put branding of his name, Keith, K.R.
And a lot of high-profile women were associated
Yes,
with this cult.
Allison Mack of Smallville, if you people watch Smallville.
Supposedly she was madly in love with him.
Madly in love with him, and he used her.
Yeah.
So this was a little bit of a twist on the playbook, although not really so much because Charles Manson, of course, recruited the girls and used, the girls in the family to get men, like Tex Watson and others, into the cult. So it's kind of just, we see the Manson playbook used redux, 50 years later in Keith Rainier. So.
And he was so good at going after wealthy women and getting their money.
Yep.
And I was saying earlier, I kind of understand people giving the sex up, right? That's a little easier.
Okay.
But to get money, he has like millionairesses.
Give them money.
They couldn't give it to him fast enough.
Right. Well, and you think, go back to Manson. It's sort of the same thing. He would get upper middle class. Many of them were. You think, oh, it's down and out girls and all that. It wasn't.
No.
It was librarians. It was, upper middle class girls that were coming to him, and he would take their possessions, their inheritances from their family, and he would say, give it up to the family, which they would, and he would divest them not only of their possessions, but of their names. They had to give up their names, their birth dates. All of those things had to be given up for the greater cause of the cult.
How do you give up your birth date? I mean,
You
like,
did.
really?
Yeah.
Like, okay, now I'm a Sagittarius.
Okay, I don't know. I mean, your birthday, I guess you don't
give up the
forget
year.
anniversary. Well, I'm joining the club on that one. But, I don't remember that. But, I mean, all of that, and they would have to call him Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I mean, and not in a profane way. I mean, Jesus Christ, like, my Lord, I love you.
And he kind
everything.
of looked like that. It's really interesting.
In the earlier days.
Yeah, in the earlier days he did. I was being interviewed about Keith Rainier for the Daily Mail and kind of compiling.
And the psychological.
The component of these women and Allison Mack. And it's exactly what you said, Lis. It's these women who are upper middle class to middle class. They're not crazy.
Right.
And the reason why they don't want someone crazy, they want someone lost, not crazy. Because they use these women to seduce other people into the cult.
Right.
So if you look crazy,
Right.
you're
It's
not
not
going
gonna
to be so seductive.
And that's important for us to realize, because it's too easy to write off people and say, well, he just went up for the crazy ones or the super weak ones or things like that. But it's not that easy. It's just not like that.
Because the sad thing is, and this is the truth from a psychological perspective, we have some noise in the background, New York City.
It's New York City,
New
folks.
York City.
It's Manhattan. It's not just Manhattan.
There are things
It's
going
Times
on.
Square, Manhattan.
That-
And you know, it's like a rush hour
yes,
too.
right, exactly. That it could be anyone. That
Right.
there is no one psychological profile. What they did find, and this could be true of anyone, these people are seeking a bigger truth.
Yeah.
They may be lost in terms of their identity, but who hasn't had a moment like that? But it's scary to think that these people are so seductive and so complimentary and charming that they can just bring people in. I wanted to talk about the connection between the Beatles as well for Charles Manson, because he was a failed musician.
Mm-hmm.
And you have theories about what would have happened if he was a successful musician.
Yes, I mean, he went to Los Angeles with that dream, you know, the Hollywood stardom, not for him on the big screen, but to become a successful musician. And he met up there with Terry Melcher, who produced records. And Terry Melcher, by the way, was a son of Doris Day, and is a son of Doris Day. And he thought Terry Melcher had given him a contract to produce records. Terry Melcher says, you know, no, I didn't. And Terry Melcher was kind of, I think, scared of him. And, well, you know, wouldn't you be?
Yeah.
And so.
I hope I would be.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you.
I think I would be, because I'm usually straight on about people.
I'll tell you about that, though, because I met I'll tell you about Tex Watson later, and I'll tell you my feelings about Tex Watson. It was so scary, but we have so much to talk about.
Yes.
We got to talk fast. Anyway, so he met Terry Melcher. He thought there was a contract. There was no contract, but he went looking for Terry Melcher at the house that Terry Melcher had rented before. That's where Sharon Tate lived. Ergo, the connection to the Tate house. I think that if he'd had that contract, and if that contract had come forward, well, then Charles Manson would be on his merry way and become the musician he wanted to be. That didn't happen. I think that anger. Well, you're the brains of the psychology group here. I'm just the legal angle here. But I just wonder if that musician in him had been, you know, and he'd gone forward, he'd become, you know, gone on with that contract, but that didn't happen, and he was angry, and instead he had this anger burning, and yet the anger burning on one side, and yet on the other side, realization that he had this amazing power over people, that they followed him, that they would do anything that he wanted them to do, and they would, clearly.
As crazy as he was very kind of good-looking-ish in the day.
But back in the day, at the cover of this book, you see him as a crazy-looking guy.
I think we have a picture.
Yeah, you brought back. There you go. Okay, one bit forward. Yeah.
Even earlier.
But he did. He was an okay-looking guy. Plus exactly. Plus strumming the guitar. He had a decent voice. He had a good enough voice so Terry Melcher was listening to him. He just wasn't that great. He didn't have the star power, but he was decent.
Did he try out to be one of the
Beach Boys? Yes.
Yeah,
yes, that's how we connected with Terry Melcher, through the Beach Boys. So there was a connection. He was decent. The Beach Boys actually did play a version of one of his songs. And so there was that going on. Yes. Oh, yes. They stayed in one of the Beach Boys' houses. No, so there is that connection going on. But anyway, back to the songs again. The White Album, the Beatles' White Album, has Helter Skelter, and that whole idea. And I think he heard that, and he used some of the lyrics, and that anger that he had, plus the knowing that he could manipulate people, and he manipulated in the Helter Skelter and in the music. He used those words and mishmashed them in a horrible way that, of course, the Beatles never intended.
Right, of course not. And while I was reading this, it said, you know, it wasn't unusual in that day. It was the 60s, and people were doing drugs.
Right, drugs.
Would listen for messages in the music.
Yes, the Beatles speaking to them, what the messages were giving them.
Now, I listened to the Helter Skelter song today, just in
Oh, you
preparation.
did?
I did. I wanted to hear it.
You were doing a little.
Because I was doing a little research.
Right.
And evidently, the song was originally about like a children's park.
Right.
And you can kind of hear, there's
nothing
nefarious
no.
about it. But Manson got his followers to believe that he was the only one that could interpret this song.
Of course. Well, because he's Charles Manson.
That song to convince his followers to kill other people.
The idea was that Helter Skelter and the whole idea of chaos and the apocalypse coming from that was that you would use the killings, and Helter Skelter Beatles were somehow telling them this, to jumpstart a race war in Los Angeles. And they would blame the killings that happened through, the help of Manson on the Black Panthers. And that would get the LAPD so angry, and the Black Panthers would then uprise against the LAPD. There would be this huge race war in Los Angeles.
And the point of that would be
okay. Well, now, this is you and I are speaking like rational. Well, we are speaking like rational people because I hope we are because we are rational people.
Regardless of what people say, right?
Regardless. So we're looking at that through the lens of rationality. Manson, of course, is not. But his thought process was this: that he would start this race war, and meanwhile, he and his followers would be out in the desert, right? They would be waiting for this race war to erupt, and as it did, it would go fire and fire and fire. In the summer of 1969, in Los Angeles, very hot, very deserty, arid, that's otherwise known as arid. And Manson and the followers then would come out, and these white folks, hippies, would come out and save everybody in Los Angeles, the Black Panthers et al., and the Black Panthers and Mansons would save Los Angeles, and Manson, of course, would be the only one who could be the saviors. And that would be the happy ending.
A psychotic delusion.
You think?
It was a break, yeah.
You're the expert, but I think so.
I mean, yeah, definitely a psychotic break. And the interesting thing is it sounds more like a class war than anything else. Like, he was seeking revenge against the people who did not want him. And so in terms of the psychological piece, a lot of our life is based on how well we can tolerate frustration and rejection, and how do we manage that in the real world. And the way he managed
I would say not well.
Right.
That would be
to be homicidal. And because it's the 50th anniversary, there's a Hollywood movie with a lot of big names. I'm sure you've seen it. It's called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Margot Robbie plays Sharon Tate. Brad Pitt is in it. Does he play Tex? No.
No.
Yeah.
All those fancy people, right?
I think there's an unknown, or at least I don't know.
Isn't it fascinating that in his death now and all of this now of course he is infamous, right?
Right. I mean, infamous.
Right.
And when you would listen to interviews with him in an odd way, like there'd be a point where you're like, okay, that kind of makes sense. That kind of makes sense, and then he'd go off the rails.
Right.
And clearly, it was like a weird truth mixed with things that were definitely wacky.
Well, I suppose you couldn't bring in people to a following like that, and Keith Rainier probably as well. If you, kind of picking up on what you were saying before, if you were outwardly just nutso, right?
Right, yeah.
A lot of what he said, and bringing in the women in the beginning, was about love and peace and bringing together.
It's always about empowerment.
Empowerment, exactly what it was. That was Keith Rainier as well. And Spawn Ranch, which is where they were, and I actually retraced the steps and went to Spawn Ranch when I did the research for this, was about that. And communal being together, and the way we can work together, and all of this peace and love. And that sounds great.
Right.
Until it doesn't. Until it went in this psychotic.
In terms of just looking out for people moving into the future, it happens in stages. So if you're feeling vulnerable, or like you're looking for something and you feel lost or disconnected, or a group does not allow you to question who they are, or people who leave or demonize, that's not a good sign.
Right. And that's what happened here.
And very few people left. Angela Lansbury's
She did leave. Yeah, she did leave.
Yeah.
She was one of the few. But can I mention something about Tex Watson?
Yes, and I was fascinated. I want to hear about him because you interviewed him.
I didn't interview him. He was Tex Watson, and I just want to bring him up because he goes to exactly your point you were just talking about. Tex Watson was the man who actually committed the murders. Tex Watson was Charles Manson's right-hand man. He was the one who actually committed the murders and was there at the scene, who actually killed Sharon Tate and brutally killed everybody. But let's get past that for a second. When I was at the parole hearing, his last parole hearing in California, I was the only media person who was allowed at that parole hearing. And I won't bore you with the stories about how I got in there, but I did. The parole officer, in a fit of frustration, because this man has now been sitting in prison for 47 plus years, and he's sitting there as quiet as a church mouse, just sitting there and just looks as normal as can be. In a fit of frustration, just says, "What made a God-fearing Texas church-going boy move from Texas all the way to California and commit the worst crimes the state has ever seen?" He was just so frustrated. I couldn't get anything out of Tex. And Tex said, "Charlie gave us love. Charlie was about a Christian boy. Why couldn't he be a good God-fearing Christian?" And he was just looking at Tex. It just was kind of this face, just like, "I just don't get it,
Yeah.
But it goes to your point about, they just wanted this love and acceptance. And then he went on to say, "I didn't have a job. I didn't know quite what to do. I just wanted a family." And this parole officer said that, you're talking like two of my three teenage kids. In other words, and they didn't go out and commit dozens, they didn't go brutally,
Why didn't that piece of the brain?
stab 7 people. So I think that's what's so frightening to us is, we all feel frustration. We all want to be loved. We all want to be part of a family bigger than our own, mom and dad and sister and brother. But to go and to join a Manson cult, and I think that that's what the frustration was on that parole officer's face.
Right. And the scary thing is that we are social animals.
Of course
so
we are.
We want approval. So if we are in a group and we're disturbed and the approval is the more you kill, the better you are, the more loved you are, you hope you're never in that situation. But it sounds like there was no remorse. It almost sounds like low intelligence. Did you get that feeling? Maybe a low IQ?
Maybe a little bit, yeah. Of course, these are not,
I mean,
these are not going to.
You went to Harvard, so I'm sure
yeah.
everyone seems low IQ to you.
No.
It sounds like,
no, but they weren't going to.
I outlined it because I was just like, he gave us love. We had a community that was his only reason. Like, that hard, and still to this day, Sharon Tate, if you see pictures on Instagram, I mean, it's hard to be that beautiful. Most people are not that beautiful.
Gorgeous.
And it just almost still doesn't make sense that she was the victim of this horrific crime. It's like fate should not have been like this for her.
All of them. I mean, all of them. It was just horrible.
But she was the most famous.
And that's why she was targeted.
Yeah.
And that's why she was targeted. That's why it was Terry Melcher's house. Charles Manson knew it was going to be a big deal. It was going to grab a lot of headlines, but then it wasn't good enough because that wasn't going to be enough. And the family came back to them. Tex Watson came back, and it was kind of like going back to Daddy. Do we do a good enough job? Well, that wasn't enough. So that's why the next night they had to go out let's get another hit. Let's get another bigger one.
And also too, Charles Manson kept writing telegraphs to the Beatles. He really thought that he was going to meet them. Like, who knows what was
Let's
going on.
get approval.
Disturbed mind, like, this will help me, maybe they'll have me. I'll be the 5th Beatle. Somehow I don't see that ever happening.
No.
But it's very frightening, and I think I'm so glad that you make the point that this is going on today.
Yeah.
And probably right now. And someone like Charles Manson was really good at figuring out headlines.
Right.
It's sad. He had a lot of skills, but he didn't use them for anything good.
No. Well, if there was a Charles Manson back in 1969, and there's a Keith Rainier in 2019, then you know someone else is reading the Manson playbook now.
And so what we need to do is help people be aware of what signs indicate that you're part of a cult, and isolation and not being able to question the leader is a good one. I personally would not hand over my money to anyone. That's just me. If someone says, I would like all your money, I would say, goodbye.
I'd say, this is a
So
robbery. Thank you very much.
In that regard,
Right.
I'm not so great for
And
a
your
cult.
birthday, and your name, that kind of
You want
thing.
my birth year, you get no money, that's it. So, anyway, so we want everyone. This is a page turner, and Lis Wiehl, you spent a lot of time researching
Couple of years,
this.
yeah.
This is one of 18 books that you have out there. It's a New York Times bestseller. It's now out in soft cover, so you can bring it to the beach. It's really an important read, and it's history and knowledge during the 50th anniversary, and now with the movie coming out.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be just another wave of people being
I
very
hope so. I hope
interested.
so, because I really passionately believe that we have to learn about history, and I guess this is his history now,
Yeah,
because it's 50 years
absolutely.
old, that to make sure that we don't repeat the same mistakes.
And the poor women, the young women, I always felt that maybe they shouldn't have been in prison for a lifetime, but
You know what? I interviewed a lot of the victims,
Yeah.
the family members, and
it's a tough one.
I
You know,
don't
they
have
were
so
part
much
of something
sympathy.
heinous.
Yeah.
I don't blame them. Let's get into the quick five. Now, my first
Uh-oh.
question seems so superficial, so I'm going to make it the second question.
Oh no.
Okay.
Okay. You didn't warn me about
Do you
this.
remember your first crush?
I do. Yes. Yes. And he lived next door.
Okay. What is your favorite piece of jewelry? That was originally my first question, but it seemed too
You know what?
superficial coming up.
This is so embarrassing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed. I don't wear any jewelry really. I barely wear jewelry.
Wow.
I don't really have much.
From your mother or anyone?
I do have a little bracelet from my mom, but I really so seldom wear. I'm just not that much into jewelry.
I remember from watching you, it was a show before you were on Fox.
Right.
I forget that show, but you were on a TV show where you were.
Oh, Power of Attorney?
Maybe it was that. And you were wearing beautiful vintage earrings.
Well, that's another thing.
And isn't it weird that I know that?
That is so funny.
That's like
That is
how my
okay.
brain
That
works.
shows you how much I don't wear jewelry. Is I've never had my ears pierced.
So they must have been clip
So
vintage.
I only wear clip-on earrings.
Okay.
So the earrings that I do wear are clip-on earrings.
But they look beautiful.
That I
on
just
you.
pick up, from wherever. If I'm like just out at a garage sale or something, I'll pick up some clip-on
They
earrings.
look good.
But I forgot to grab a pair on my way out today.
Are
And
you
so
impressed that I remember
did
that
that
from
is
how many years
amazing.
ago?
Oh my
That was
God.
before I knew you.
That was like 3 years ago because that's always
Oh my God.
But I don't wear much jewelry.
It's fascinating for a person who loves jewelry. It's just interesting to hear someone in a totally different space. Online shopping or offline shopping?
Oh, Amazon. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a good one,
I just
Amazon.
it saves time.
It does, and
I
that
hate this.
Prime. Hard to resist.
Yeah, I finally broke. Only this last year did I do it. But
Okay.
now I'm like, okay. Now I'm like Prime. Okay, 2 days.
And
Okay,
you get this
can I
in
get
a
it
day,
faster?
so
Yep,
that's
yep. Oh, today, yeah. Okay.
What is the secret of your successful life?
Okay, that's my fault.
Oh, well, that's okay. All right.
See, it is.
Worry
It's probably. What is the secret of my successful life? Are we calling it a successful
Yes.
life? If I can't say the word.
Yes, no, yes, you.
Oh my gosh, this is a quick five. I love my kids. I love my family, and they love me back.
And you love what you do.
And I love what I do. I guess
think
there
that
too. Okay,
helps?
but that's second. Yes.
That's second?
But
Okay.
that's second.
All
But
right.
yes, but I do love what I do.
Yeah.
And to add on to that, always follow your bliss.
Yeah.
When you really do love what you do, it shows.
I think
How
so
about
too.
that?
I think so too. What do you want to achieve in the near future? You've done so much.
My next hunting book.
Can you say what it is or no?
I can.
Oh,
Hunting the Unabomber.
nice.
The FBI and Ted Kaczynski. It's the longest capture ever of the in American history.
Well, I can't wait, and I hope you'll come back.
Yeah, I found a source that it's never more to come.
Something to look forward to, but you have to get this first. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Find you?
LisWiehlBooks.com, LisWiehlBooks.com with an S, because there have been many books.
Yep, and we will have your website up. So
Great,
people
thank
can
you.
find you. Thank you for joining us. Have a great holiday, and we will see you soon.